Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, award-winning director, producer, and author, and this is episode 455. In this conversation, I am joined by the amazing Amelia Randolph Campbell, who I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with for several years now. In that time, she has exploded into this incredible speaker, thought leader, CEO, and founder, and I know you are going to love hearing from her today. You may remember Amelia from her recent appearance on the Big Talk in episode 417 from my Speaker Salon Showcase. Amelia is a CEO and founder of ARC Inc. She's a certified speaker with the Big Talk Academy, TEDx URI Speaker, and a Yahoo Finance pick for the top motivational speakers to watch in 2022. She spent over a decade performing as a stage and screen actor based in New York City, followed by years in leadership and sales coaching. And she has taken her two unique careers to create a platform that elevates the personal development experience for leaders, positive disruptors, influencers, and communicators. Her work empowers people with her groundbreaking methodology to interrupt and completely reimagine behavioral habits, releasing limits on life. All right, everybody, let's do this. Amelia, I am so excited to have you on the show today. How are you?
I'm so well. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you
Oh
so
my
much
gosh.
for having me.
My pleasure. We have had the pleasure of knowing each other for more than a year now, and I have seen you explode into the incredible human being, speaker, thought leader, CEO, and founder. And it has just been such a pleasure and privilege to witness this. And I would love for you to take us back. I could go on and on about you, but what I'd love for you to do is take us back to how this all began and what led you to this moment in time with me here today and our listeners.
Absolutely. I love the journey. I grew up in the beautiful, beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico, in the high desert with my wonderful family. I had a wonderful, rich childhood with my sister, and we were immersed in beauty and imagination and the arts, especially. We grew up dancing. I did extensive theater camp, theater camp retreats in the mountains and in school. I had my first professional play at the age of 7. I was a Munchkin in the Wizard of Oz, and that is when I really caught the bug, and I knew that I just declared at the age of 7 that I was moving to New York to be an actress. So the journey from there was super clear. I went and got my degree at Wheaton College in Massachusetts in theater, and also did conservatory at the O'Neill Center in Connecticut. And that's my true heart's home for theater and the arts. And then, yes, moved straight to New York and have been here for 18 years. The well over a decade spent hardcore pursuing acting was amazing. 12 years into being in New York, I got married and started a family. I have two beautiful, beautiful children. And around that time, I started getting the urge for certainly some more flexibility and also a way to scale my income. I've never, ever believed in the starving artist mentality. So I entered into a company that I really loved in entrepreneurship and sales. And the company is Stella and Dot. And I had a really great 6 or 7 years there. I fell in love with sales, which came as a total surprise. But the reason I fell in love with it is because there was so much personal development involved. And it was a different kind of personal development than I had been engaged with before. Different than acting, which also is very personally developing. But over the years, I grew a big organization. I grew my own organization and became a leader and coach in my own organization and in the company. And the reason why this part of the story is so wonderful is because I began at that point speaking on stage at our annual sales conferences. And these talks were motivationally based. They were backed with, of course, business brass tacks for the community there, as well as, really how to do the work inside yourself to build the bridge between what you want and all the fears in the way. That's the journey that I had taken for myself, and I was good at leading people through that to the other side. And that was my real passion point in that business, really. So the response to that, to these talks at conference, that created a specific significant moment for me. People really seemed to be lit up by what I was saying. And one person in particular, I will never forget, it was one of those significant moments, um, came to me after one of the talks, and she said, listen, she said, you must do more of this, a lot more. She said, I was hesitant to come to the conference at all. I really didn't know if I should. But when I heard you just now, I knew that's why I had to be here. And I want to start my morning with you every day if I can. So please do more of this. And it just blew me away. It was one of those full stop sparkle moments in your life. And it set off a really clear barometer in my heart that really, helping and motivating people behind the scenes and, in daily life and person to person and in our work days was certainly in my blood, but that I have skills on stage as well from my former career, and that doing these kinds of connecting this way and teaching from stage could obviously create a much wider and more meaningful impact in the ways that I was passionate about in this new way. So very soon after that, you, Tricia, appeared in my life through not one, but two mutual friends who I saw studying with you. And, it's very clear. This always magically happens in life, where when you're ready and when you are entering a new, juicy, delightful phase of where you're supposed to grow, the correct people will show up. So I watched you for a few months and took a free masterclass, I think, and then said a big yes to the Big Talk Academy. And that was fall of 2020 when we went through Big Talk Academy together. And that's where it turned even a further corner. And through the wonderful specific idea finding process that you bring us through in that program, I found this idea, like a perfect storm idea of all of my loves and careers to this point, that this idea that mindset and personal development can be put through the lens of how an actor thinks, how they specifically think when they're creating characters. Because this kind of thinking is all about dropping limitations, choosing new possibilities, and following through with those choices to get a different result, a result that's different from their current experience as a human. So I got so very excited because it is the conscious study of yourself as a human being in a story, your story, making the choice to specifically transform into a better version of yourself, into a better version of your story. And I was so excited. There's no reason that this delicious and effective work can't be meaningful in an exciting way in our real lives, not up on
Great.
stage.
I want to go into that in just a second, Amelia. I want to give everybody an opportunity to hear what work it is you do and how they can apply it to their own lives. And before we do that, you've gone through this whole process of being an artist in New York, becoming an entrepreneur for another company in many ways, understanding the power of sales, having a family, being in New York City during a pandemic, finding your way to the Big Talk Academy so that you could have the evidence and the promise and the reassurance that what you have to say matters. Now, at what point on your journey did you feel like you were really finding your voice, not only as a CEO and founder, but also as a woman, a wife, a mother, a friend, a speaker? Because that's a big question. So let's break that down a little bit.
Certainly. I mean, I love this question. I think about, it made me think about all the different voices I feel I've had through life. There's your young voice, there's your voice as it's developing. There's, for me, my actor voice, and then certainly the mother voice. Um, at the beginning of the mother voice, it's almost like you totally disappear. That's such a whole and holy transformation. You find a whole new version of yourself there. So with that comes another voice, and also the entrepreneur voice. So I find that all of these parts and voices overlap as you grow. And my voice now is my favorite version, because it really is informed by all of those things and the best of those things to form what my new mission is that's made up this work and this platform. And I also think that it's never done, the finding your voice process. I absolutely am still finding it every day. And if that weren't true, I wouldn't be leaving, crucial room for the evolution. Everything's evolving faster and faster. So this new voice is a I've got a real interactive relationship with it, and we're best friends, and I'm constantly listening to it inside and out of it to further articulate who she is and what she wants to say in ways that continue to matter every day and every day and every day.
I love that. And this voice that I'm witnessing, you stepping into and having and experiencing and giving yourself permission to fully embody, is the voice that's created this company, ARC Inc., and this retreat, the ARC Intensive. And for anyone who has not put it together yet, ARC is Amelia Randolph Campbell. And also, it is very much about the arc of the journey you're going to go on inside of this process. Amelia is someone who you are always, and I'm speaking to the listeners, but I'm also speaking directly to you. You always roll up your sleeves and want to do the work. And I think that's part of being an artist. And we're not afraid to fail. We're not afraid to take risks. We're not afraid to get dirty and to do the work. And that's also our dance background. And seeing you go through the Big Talk Academy, the mastermind, the speaker salon, you're going to be a 2-time speaker salon alum, and watching you expand and watching you continue to grow. I think that what you're saying about our voice is always evolving is so important for the listeners to really hear. If you stop studying, then your voice might not continue to evolve. But it's so super important for us as leaders, as influencers, to constantly being asking questions and staying curious and educating ourselves with people who can expand that voice. Talk a little bit about how, now that you've moved beyond acting and into founder and CEO of ARC Inc., how you have created this process inside of your very successful company.
Yes, thank you. The company is the platform with which I craft the ARC Intensive. This is a workshop that has 3 different versions. There's a 2-hour, 4-hour, and a full day version. I invite individuals in very small groups to have an intimate full day experience where we really get to know a couple of key game-changing, life-changing exercises that are actually quite simple, but are there for excavation and discovery and shift making that we ensure together as a group in witness and in trust in a very safe space to experience together. And then you're not just learning something, you're not just reading something, you are experiencing a shift through very key simple changes that you can take with you and apply all over your life. So it is simple and epic, and it's my favorite way to engage with people in these smaller groups. But I also work with larger groups, university groups, corporate leadership in retreat style. So the workshop is my intensive, that is my signature program. And then through the business, I also appear on podcasts such as this and media outlets and articles any way I possibly can to get this life-changing messaging out.
And for everybody who's listening and watching, I'm going to tell you that this process is all about making you feel better. Tell us more about that. And it sounds so simple. Everybody wants to feel better, right?
Everybody wants to feel better. And there are simple ways to do it. I think we can get super complex about it. Many of us, myself included, have spent lots of hours, lots of money on various therapies and classes, and all of that works in different ways. And I think this one is a simple this one has some simple, effective tools that is different. I think even I didn't realize this is some of the expertise of my craft that I didn't even realize I was so intimate with. But I was keeping all these skills up on stage, and I didn't consciously realize the power they would have in my daily life. And not even necessarily big shifts get created, but this work unlocks the small minutia kinds of shifts that then create big ripples in your life. And I think now more than ever, we need things to be simple. We need to feel a difference right away. And the whole goal is for that feeling of self-empowerment, that it's not coming from an outside circumstance to change you, but that you're able to change things in ways that matter from the driver's seat. And most of all, that it's coming from a place of you feeling centered and relieved and just simply feeling better.
All right, give us an example. If you're talking to our audience and our listeners about how to feel better, let's say, okay, Amelia, I am always worried about money. How do I feel better about money?
Certainly. Well, all the work begins with awareness first. Be aware of who you are and what story you're in. That's the first starting point. And then, when you first bring that consciousness to what are you saying? What are you stating? What questions are you asking yourself? Because often we don't even really realize what that is. We're looking from the outside in, and then you can understand what frequency you're really putting out there, what messaging you're putting out there, which will mirror what's coming back to you. And so that's all about bringing consciousness to what your thoughts and feelings are that are creating your words and your actions, and certainly your results.
When we first started working together one-on-one, do you remember how rapidly everything started happening?
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit in relationship to the work that you do when it comes to being present and putting your, raising your frequency and your vibration so that there is a technique that you teach people in order to feel better, but that's part of it. So talk a little bit to our audience about that.
Yes. So I think it also comes down to making decisions. Really not waiting for something to happen, or even waiting to feel a certain way, but deciding, getting clear about what it is you want and why, and then really committing. And certainly, if things are scary, if they're changing, you decide on which level that you wish to play. And it's not waiting to have all the things you need before you leap, but it's saying, this is where I am, this is who I am. And you can define it in very specific, simple ways. You can build yourself a house of certainty, and then put it out in the world, and the world will respond. And that certainly happened with our work. It happens if you pay attention, anytime you really make a decision and stand fully in it there without waffling. Then you can be fully given the answers and fully given the rewards.
And when you talk about the work that you do in relationship to feeling better and to having a better, more fulfilling, abundant, amazing life full of possibility, starting with a decision, what's the next thing that people need to do?
The next thing is they need to set how they feel and why. I think we're feeling all kinds of things at all times, and the ability to bring yourself into a place of feeling good really, really matters. So, and it's not just saying feel better, feel better, feel better, but specifically right now I'm working, and this is very deep work that occurs in the ARC intensive workshop, surgically and consciously working with questions that are actually very simple, and you're tuning yourself to just literally ask a different question to get the answer that you want. And one of the points I always make is that we're always asking questions that are set up to fail us and to disappoint us, and then we get that evidence and we think that's true. But you can really change what's true and what feels true.
What would be
Especially,
an example of a question that we're setting ourselves up to fail?
certainly. So let's go back to the money example. Why is it money is often a struggle for all of us? But even that statement I don't want to speak, right? So the point is, you could say, why is it so hard to make enough money right now? because you are seeing all around you that you're trying really hard, you're not making enough money, but you're asking that question, and the brain and energy in the world, it really is like a supercomputer, and will only give you back what you ask. So if you're asking what's hard about this, you can only really get back what's hard. And you can just ask that and wait and pay attention. It all comes back. It's evidence of hard. And a very simple shift is simply saying, changing this energetic statement of the question. What is fun about the way I'm currently making money? You can wait, and your brain will start delivering to you what is fun about it, because all things are true at all times. It depends where your focus is. Right now, you're focusing on what's fun, and you will get back the answers of what is fun, because there is something, and you're brilliant, so your brain will find it. So there are ways to set yourself up to deliver yourself what you actually want, instead of what is more default and habitual. And it's very fun to experiment with stuff like that. So that's one small example of these surgical conscious shifts you can make that create a huge difference in, first, yes, how you feel, which is the number one point we're working on. And
Everybody who's listening and watching, remember that you are brilliant. Amelia has shared that with you today, and that when you make the conscious decision to change the question you're asking, then you align with the universe and you will get more of what you actually desire and far less of what you don't. And keep in mind that when you are completely aligned with your voice and why your voice is meant to be heard, instead of no one wants to hear what I have to say, right? You're going to call that in. The moment you reframe that using Amelia's technique, everyone or someone needs to hear what I have to say, and that power will be given to you instantaneously, and you will start feeling better. I love this.
yeah, you get to choose what's true for you and how you feel.
Amazing. All right. You've got this incredible company. You've been a Yahoo Finance top motivational speaker to watch in 2022. You're a TED speaker. What does it feel like to have this happening with you, for you, so that you can be of service? And I ask that because you have a very powerful voice, and I know with that comes a lot of responsibility. So how are you embodying that now?
Gosh, I feel tremendously grateful. I feel honored, and I feel a tremendous responsibility. I feel the up leveling, happening in real time, and my job is to continue to increase the containers, so that it's like I'm building a ship, and the ship has to have certain specifications to go on this bigger body of water. I love analogies. So, with up leveling comes everything else. Everything's more. Like, your fear can be more. Your excitement can be more. Absolutely, the reward is more. But what I'm feeling most of all is that it's all really worth it. And I feel like, even sometimes when I'm on the roller coaster, like hanging on for dear life, why mess around with anything other than that? Like, there's only a finite amount of time, and let's see what we can really do with these years.
You also have a beautiful way of balancing everything in your life. And I'm not going to use the language work-life balance. That's not what I'm going to use. I'm talking about life balance. I'd love for you to share with our listeners how you are able to maintain the level of high performance keynote speaker, TED speaker, mentor, retreat founder, CEO, mother, wife, friend, community member. Talk to us about that, Amelia.
Certainly. I mean, I think something that forced, I know that something that forced this kind of balance and capability and execution was motherhood. I think I was not so balanced before that. And I actually, when you've got something like motherhood delivered to your plate, and you say, oh, I want to be able to deliver as I always used to, you have to talk about having to get bigger. You had to get bigger. And again, that's a choice. You can either be mowed over by the condition of motherhood that is unlike what you ever thought it would be until you actually experience it, or you could go down with that car crash, or you can emerge from it totally reborn. And there's I've just never, it makes you flex. If you take the invitation, you can flex in that same way in every area of life. And And that is an incredible gift. So, through that, I actually became way more efficient because your time does go way down. So I'm so grateful to it, because when there are spots of time, and you absolutely have to be much more of a planner, you have to structure things, you have to know things in advance, and then be extremely flexible because everything changes. But, I remember, during the early days of breastfeeding, and I was building my other business full time back then, and I didn't know exactly when I would have 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I knew they would come, but I said, okay, well, that's all I've got. For sure, no fluff work is going to be done in that time. If I really want to move this, which I do, because now I'm motivated more than ever to succeed in all areas, you are doing the hardest things first, or doing the scariest things first, because those are usually the things that move the needle in anything that's worthwhile doing. So, I think about all the time, I had all the time in the world before that. I didn't think I did, but I did. I was everything else comes first, and you can delay the hard stuff, but there's no space for messing around anymore. And that's when I was able to move the needle in all areas, because in the finite time in each area, I decided I was going to be satisfied and feel purposeful um, by doing the hard things first, and then you experience the reward very quickly, and you just feel like you're living 10,000% at all times.
Amazing. Well, Amelia, you are truly an influential voice in your world and in my community, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Are you ready for some fast talk?
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite book?
Oh gosh, it's got to be Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It has everything I love. It calls you to task. It scares you. It's different. It's a different kind of voice, a different kind of story. It asks you to step up to the plate, mirrors you, the good and the bad. It gives you nowhere to hide, which I guess I'm really liking that these days. It's funny and it's brutal. And one word she uses a lot in there, it is liberating. And it's
Mm,
very crucial, in a moment when we have one of the clearest opportunities to go forward and create, um, to be in that bravery. So I love that book.
amazing. Who is your favorite speaker and why?
Michelle Obama is. There are many, but I have to pick her. I think for many reasons: her physical presence, obvious self-possession happening there, and then I noticed that whether or not it's a huge speech or an intimate interview conversation, she just delivers what she says with such command and connection and intelligence and relatability and regality. But you also feel like she's your good friend sitting there talking. So I feel it's her.
I feel the exact same way as you. How do you memorize?
Mm. The number one start place that I have is connecting with my purpose of what I'm saying. I think the words just don't go in as easily or as deeply if you're not connected to a purpose behind them. Knowing what I'm saying and why, and what I want behind it, the intentions, the connection point, getting it outside of you just saying words, but how do you get it connected to your audience with purpose? Connect to the emotional life behind the words, and really then just assigning the journey in segments and beats of transitions and actions. Really, really knowing how you want people to feel. I'm I'm a feeling I'm a feelings obsessed over here.
Feelings obsessed. Everybody who's listening and watching, it is so important for you to hear what Amelia is saying. When you know what you're saying, then it will stick. If you are just reciting words from a script, you will not remember it, and you will constantly be looking for those words. So always make sure you have that purposeful meaning behind what you're saying. All right, share with our listeners and our audience, Amelia, what you do the day before you speak, whether it's a podcast, on stage, or a virtual event.
Yes. Well, the goal is that you've worked a lot on it, especially if it's a speech, on stage, and then you've already got it to the point where you've run it so much that you're living it. It's in your blood. And then you get rest for sure, and you get up early. And the first thing I do that day is go over the material. That way you get rid of the sticky feeling inside of like, oh, I'm going to do something else first and then run it. That is not anything you want in your aura. And then certainly, if it's a podcast, I love to make sure I know what I'll be asked, and craft answers in advance, and also leave room for authentic discussion in the moment. But I like to ask myself the questions and then run through the answers at least once that day.
And what about on stage?
Oh gosh, on stage, I've had both. I've had the experience of under preparation that I thought was prepared, and then going extra prepared. I think I like to have a ticker. I like to run the talk at least 50 times if it's an on stage performed off script talk, which most of the time it is. At least 50 times, and I keep a ticker. So that I know that even if in the moment, you never know what's going to happen, you might lose it for a minute connecting to someone in the audience, that if you've run it 50 times completely memorized, then it's in there somewhere. You're going to have a lifeline in 1 second to another part of your speech. You know exactly where the words are on the page. That's what I like to do. I just like to ensure that you're safe in your talk. And when you're safe in your talk, because it's in your blood, then you are present no matter what, and you are effective in helping people in the audience no matter what, and they're not worried about you ever.
And you all have heard me say this a million times. That talk needs to be in your DNA so that you can move beyond it into the playground that is your stage. All right, Amelia, what's your favorite podcast? What podcast are you obsessed with?
I have to say that there's two. It continues to be the Life Coach School with Brooke Castillo. Endless wonderful stuff in there, especially for times of transition and experimenting with new ways of living. And then Heavily Meditated. I love that one with Scott Roberts and Emily Somerset.
Oh, two of my favorites as well. Scott and
Yeah.
Emily are divine.
Yeah.
Amelia, it is so great to have you on The Big Talk. Where can our listeners get in touch with you? And I believe you have a gift for them today, yes?
Yes, absolutely. I have a special offer for this glorious audience, and thanks for following me if you choose to, which is a gifted copy of my ebook. It's called Pocket Perspectives, a little book of instant relief. And it's a walkthrough of 5 common scenarios that we tend to experience, accompanied with specific ways to reframe your perspective for, yes, the instant relief right then. And you can find it on the website, ameliarandolphcampbell.com. There's a big red button up top, and you can receive the ebook there. And also, you can watch my TEDx there and different talks, different news. And if anyone's interested in booking me to speak or getting involved in a workshop, the first one is in July, and then it will be quarterly through the year. Details will be in the show notes. Lastly, you can totally follow me and talk to me. I'm interactive with my audience on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody who is a follower of the Big Talk podcast. We so appreciate your time and that you tune in. And remember, your voice matters. Big love, everybody.